After a deadly confrontation between Israeli settlers and Palestinian villagers last Friday, tensions are boiling in the occupied West Bank, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowing a forceful response to the incident that left 2 Israelis and 4 Palestinians dead. It comes against the backdrop of years of rising settler violence and an acceleration of illegal settlements in the West Bank by the Israeli government. So in this video, we're going to explain the crisis in the West Bank, last week's violent incident, and why things don't look like they'll be getting better anytime soon. Which flag is better, the Seychelles or Marshall Islands? What about Scotland or South Korea, Trinidad or East Timor? How about a battle of the stars, the EU or USA? Cast your vote in our official flag ranking survey by clicking the link in the description. For context, the West Bank has been militarily occupied by Israel since it was captured from Jordan during the 1967 war. In the 1990s, after the first Palestinian Intifada, or uprising, Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization signed the Oslo Accords. These established limited self-governance for Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, with a view to eventual, but as yet unrealized, full Palestinian statehood. The Accords also split the West Bank into 3 areas. A, under the control of the Palestinian Authority, B, under joint Palestinian and Israeli control, and Area C, under direct Israeli control. Some 3 million Palestinians live in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, as do an estimated 700,000 Jewish Israeli settlers, who live in hundreds of settlements and outposts across the territory, which are illegal under international law. While these settlements have been a long-term Israeli project, the last few years under Benjamin Netanyahu's government have seen a record expansion of Israeli land grabs and settlement expansion. In 2023, the Israeli government approved a record number of building permits for new settlement housing units, and in 2024, it declared more West Bank territory as state land than in any previous calendar year. In 2025, the Israeli government established a record number of outposts and new settlements. Bezalel Smotrich, the far-right finance minister with responsibility over settlement policy, says that he's carrying out a settlement revolution. He's explicitly stated that the settlement projects are an effort to kill the viability of a Palestinian state and to expand and entrench Israeli control over Judea and Samaria, using the biblical terms for the West Bank. In 2024, the International Court of Justice issued a landmark advisory opinion, declaring that Israel's prolonged occupation of the Palestinian territories is illegal under international law, adding that it must end the occupation as soon as possible, cease all new settlement activities, and evacuate all settlers from the territories. Israel rejected the ruling and instead doubled down. The international community, meanwhile, has proven unable or unwilling to enforce this ruling. There is plenty of international condemnation and some targeted sanctions of specific violent individuals in the settler movement, but broader action is not forthcoming. The EU, for instance, is currently politically gridlocked over whether to ban imports from Israeli settlements. So, against all of this backdrop, what happened last week? Well, on Friday morning, a group of more than a dozen armed Israeli settlers entered the village of Tel in the northern West Bank, in what the Israeli military has somewhat euphemistically described as an unauthorized and uncoordinated hike. A group of Palestinian residents gathered to confront the settlers and guard homes. Subsequent events were captured in widely circulated footage. Hand-to-hand scuffles broke out, and amid pushing and shoving, a Palestinian resident managed to wrestle an assault rifle out of the hands of an Israeli settler and shot and killed him. More gunfire followed, and by the end of the incident, 4 Palestinians had been shot and killed, as had 2 Israelis, including the settler who was killed first and an Israeli soldier. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu labelled the shooting a terrorist attack against Israel and vowed to take strong steps in response. Those steps include the demolition of the home of the, quote, terrorist behind the attack, forceful action in villages acting as, quote, terrorist hubs, including arms confiscation and revocation of work permits, reinforcement of Israeli military units across the West Bank, and the acceleration of the legalization of outposts and the establishment of new ones. Now, outposts are unauthorized Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank, often just a cluster of homes or caravans. While they are illegal under Israeli law, the Israeli government can, and increasingly does, retroactively legalize them, turning them from wildcat outposts into settlements officially recognized under domestic Israeli law, but which are still obviously illegal under international law. So Netanyahu is pushing to ramp up this process following last week's deadly clash. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas condemned Netanyahu's response, saying, quote, "These crimes and daily violations against the Palestinian people are pushing the occupied West Bank towards an explosion." Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich went further than Netanyahu, though, saying that 3 Palestinian villages, including Tel, should look like the refugee camps in Nablus and Tulkarem, referencing the widespread demolitions that the Israeli military carried out in the West Bank last year. Similarly, National Security Minister Itamar Ben Gvir said that the cities and villages of the Palestinians who are involved in the fatal shooting should be treated like Beit Hanun in Gaza, which has been systematically leveled. Over the weekend, the Israeli military raided several West Bank towns and villages and arrested more than 130 Palestinians as part of the security operation. The weekend also saw a series of attacks by Israeli settlers in various areas of the West Bank, with 2 mosques reportedly set alight, as well as cars and farmland. Friday's incident was the deadliest single incident that the West Bank has seen for months, but it wasn't a standalone event. Rather, it forms part of a longer-running trend of increasing violence and tension in the West Bank, which is looking more and more volatile. As you can see from this graph, UN data shows that the number of attacks by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank each year has been on the rise since 2017 and has continued climbing amidst the tension caused by the October 7th Hamas attacks and the subsequent Gaza war. Last year, the UN reported a record 1,836 settler attacks, which on current trajectory looks set to be broken again this year. Between October 7, 2023 and the end of June 2026, more than 1,100 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank by Israeli forces or settlers. And in the same time period, 43 Israelis have been killed in the West Bank by Palestinians. As we mentioned earlier, this is all happening at the same time as the Israeli government is intensifying its expansion of settlements and taking of land in the West Bank, which fuels more tension that ends up erupting in violent incidents, which are in turn used to justify more crackdowns, more settlements, and so on. These recent events should also be seen within Israel's political context, in which Netanyahu's government is trailing in the polls ahead of the approaching October election, so it's keen to galvanize its support base and accelerate its activities while it still can. It's a bleak conclusion, but it's hard to imagine the temperature cooling in the West Bank anytime soon, especially in the short term, as the October election also coincides with the autumn Palestinian olive harvest, which tends to bring a spike in Israeli settler violence. Now, this is a huge story, and I can imagine that you felt pretty helpless by the headlines recently. And trust us, so have we. And that's not just because we want a comforting story, it's because we need evidence that doing something still matters. You may feel that individual actions are meaningless, but what if we told you that as a community, you can still make a difference? Well, that's why we joined Planet Wild. Planet Wild is not just your usual environmental organisation. It's a passionate community of over 25,000 members, including myself, built around a clear focus: protecting and conserving the world we all live in. We're more aware than ever that the world is a scary place, and the state of our planet needs to change. So every single month, the Planet Wild community funds a mission to protect endangered animals, restore our forests, and clean our oceans. The best part is they document all of the missions through videos on their YouTube channel, so we get to see what our contributions help to achieve. Examples of their incredible work span from training dogs to protect loggerhead sea turtles, restoring the cloud forests of Colombia, to turning a former fish farm into a beaver habitat. So where do you and I come in? Well, by becoming a member, we're directly funding a brand new nature mission from the comfort of our own home. With Planet Wild, you can make an impact without being on the ground yourself. Big or small, your difference matters, and you can contribute as little as $6 a month to help protect nature and give back to the planet that we all share. It's no secret that we're huge fans of Planet Wild, so much so that the first 100 people to sign up with the code NEWSGLOBAL7 will get their first month paid for directly by us. All you have to do is scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to get started. You can cancel your membership at any time, so there's absolutely no catch with Planet Wild. It's just an amazing way to give back to nature and create a real lasting change. And you'll never be left hanging as to where your money goes, as you'll be able to see the impact in less than 30 days right here on YouTube. So if you want to see them in action, check out their mission transforming a former fish farm into a beaver habitat.